Good morning, folks, and welcome to the final and fifth part of the Adepta Sororitas Masterclass. Now we're going to be talking about actually putting your models on the table. We're going to go through the pace of your turns, actually what moves you're going to make on individual and specific turns. I know we talked about pacing a lot in the last one, but man, that's not enough. We got to talk about that some more. We're going to talk about how we actually do things on the table. Go through a game I actually played at the Pirate Cup with my Tournament Sisters list against Team Poland's phenomenal Eldar player, Michael Duda, one of the strongest Eldar players in the world. We had a really great game back and forth. So we're going to go through a coaching match recap on that and kind of wrap it all up. So if you're not a master of Sisters by the end of this masterclass, get out and play some games because you have all the information you need. Okay. What are your main goals for the first turn with Sisters? Do not take unnecessary casualties. Move block your opponent, stall the game, slow it down, stage your army near objectives, so if their opponent goes to objectives, you can counterattack. Toss a grenade, why don't you? You're not trying to do much damage, but you're trying to do meaningful damage over time, so getting that ball rolling with a grenade early is nice. Shoot an Exorcist. I mean, if you have Exorcist, shoot them. They're indoor fire. Do not try to find shots needlessly on turn one or aggressively on turn one. It's more about survival than offense. Be able to attack any objective your opponent tries to hold. This is more of a goal as opposed to necessarily something that you can actually achieve. But the idea here is you are staged up all over the board to attack any objective your opponent tries to contest, at least in midfield, be it the center objective, their expansion objective, or your expansion objective. If it's like their home field or a mission where the objectives are really far defensively held, like Ritual, it's maybe a little bit more challenging. Not always a deal breaker because this does kind of contradict do not take unnecessary casualties. This is an extension of staging. Stage where you can to attack objectives. Score secondaries without commitment and wait for turns 2 and 3. When I say without commitment, I mean it's okay to throw away 2 Crusaders. I mean it's okay to throw away 5 Zephyrim. I do not mean it's okay to throw away a Rhino and an Immolator and the girls inside or the Arc goes inside at all. Do not throw away characters. Throw away your easy stuff that you have designed to throw away. Your Seraphim, your Zephyrim, your Crusaders. On turn 1. That's the stuff you're okay with losing without committing because you're trading that for points and you're not really giving up much material. You're largely waiting for turns 2 and 3 when your ingresses and your reserves start to populate and you can really get some momentum push across the table in the right spots at the right time. So turns 2 and 3, these are the big turns in terms of Warhammer these days. What you're going to do here is you're going to solidify your expansion objectives. And notice that this is a turn 2, turn 3 type of thing, not a turn 1 thing, because turn 1 you're going to take needless casualties. Turn 2, turn 3, you expand your expansion objective while launching attacks on your opponent's side with some ingressing Celestine, while skirmishing and reinforcing areas with your Seraphim coming out of reserve, your Volgons coming out of reserve, anything like that. Solidify your expansion objective. I like to also take this opportunity to get Triumph on objective, usually the center objective if there is one. She does really great staging in midfield and going a central position after that. She's OC6, she comes back to life. Use that. Contest your opponent's primary. This is any turn you have an opportunity to contest your opponent's primary, unless it's going to cause you catastrophic resources. This is typically worth it, but it's certainly something you are setting up for actively and trying to let dictate your turns. Like if you can affect the scoreboard from a strategic point of view in a meaningful way, this is what you're trying to do. Start killing meaningful resources. So at this point, we are no longer in the shoot an Exorcist, throw a grenade mindset. We are now like, okay, my opponent is going to have to give me something real to chew on because I am now walking the objectives. Kill those real things. Kill the things that are going to kill your sisters quickly so you can start to win the end game. Anything with high rate of fire, anything that's kind of unkillable like an Avatar, get work done on that now so you can bring it down later or you kill it, on turn 2 or 3. Bring in reserves to help sustain the skirmishing and trading. So this is very important, but basically where you bring your reserves in is twofold. One, there's the immediate or short-term side of things, like where can I come in and make a play happen? Whether that play is a move block, a skirmish, attack, a screen, whatever it is, where do I come in and make a play happen? The other side is just coming in for reinforcements in a more traditional sense, like an area as a battlefield. In an area of the battlefield where your opponent might eventually win the fight, but is not yet solidified the victory, You bring in 10 more girls, all of a sudden this takes another whole battle round to solve for your opponent. That battle round might be what you need to contest primary there for one more turn, which is what you need to win the game. So recognizing where it's just more valuable sometimes to put bodies for future usage is also a reason to bring in reserves, because you're not going to get great reserves on everybody, especially if they're screening really well. You can only rapid ingress 2 things at most, one on turn 2, one on turn 3. The ladies that are not rapid ingressing while they're getting screened, just think about where those bodies can be most useful. Speaking of rapid ingress to attack your opponent's side of the board. Imagine this, you're hiding your army safely, you're coming out on turn 2, you're now on your objectives, you're in the vulnerable position, your opponent wants to attack you, but all of a sudden he's got problems on his side of the board because you're causing them with your rapid ingresses. Do that so that your opponent is solving problems on their side so that they are not creating problems on yours. Also, if you can actually contest objectives while creating problems on their side, you are now really winning the game. Scoring secondaries. Goes without saying, but you need a consistent 5 turns of secondary scoring with sisters to really get close to that 40 number, because the goal here is to draw primary, win secondaries, maybe win primary by the end of the game, but early game certainly draw primary and lose early, win late. Preserve resources for endgame. This is the whole point of slowing it all down. The entire point of your entire strategy is to slow the game down so that you can have a resource material advantage towards turns 4 and 5, which you can get bottom of turn scoring from, which you can use to block your opponent's bottom of turn scoring. Really just trying to resource preservation in your game here. For turns 4 and 5, now we've done the rapid ingressing, we've done the reserving, the game's on its way. What are you trying to do? Well, now you're trying to cash in. You have a resource advantage because you played sisters properly. You have a material advantage. You are now coming back on the table because you spent the first 2-3 turns getting out of your opponent's zone. Solidify more objectives to offset primary and deficit turn 2. So remember how we talked about you're not even going to draw the objectives on turn 1, which means you're not going to score objectives on turn 2 besides the one in your home field. Which means your opponent probably got a little primary lead on you if you couldn't contest their objectives on turn 2 also. To make up for that, we're going to score big end games. So solidify more objectives. Now is the part where I start holding 3, contesting 1, and you're on 1. So now I'm winning 3-1 on objectives, and that can really quickly add up turns 4 and 5. Contest opponent's primary or lead them to only 1 objective. Absolutely. So ideally, and it's not uncommon, I've given opponents 0s in Warhammer in primary like this. But you want to be giving them at most a 5, which is just their home field objective or just their side field objective. And you want to be launching attacks directly onto their objectives at this point while you're dominating the board, because you actually now have a material advantage. You've been trading up and using your reserves to mitigate their counter strikes, all as a means to an end to create a material advantage. And now you're cashing it. Use vehicles, because you're probably going to have an amount of vehicles, 2 or 3 typically. They're really tough, and at this point, they're probably not going to die because your opponent gets low value for killing them and is probably out of resources to kill them with. So use vehicles and random stragglers, which is why I use Miracle Dice to keep random stragglers alive, to score your secondary points, and move, block, and engage the enemy to prevent them from contesting. So late game when vehicles are just driving around virtually unkillable, you create the Great Wall of Immolator, and then people can't walk through it. It's a move block. It's a move block that can keep your objectives nice and safe. Vehicles also have good OC. Not good OC per point, but just generally good OC. So you can just put vehicles on objectives, and endgame you might just hold them with that. This is your comeback to offset the early game tempo we gave up for resource preservation. Think of it like this. Your opponent is going to run to objectives and score them, which lets you kill them. This is early game. This is because you're not running onto objectives, which means your opponent's not able to kill you, which means you get a resource advantage. You're up in score early, you're up in material mid. And then by endgame, you transfer that resource advantage that you've acquired into a points comeback, which you use to actually win the game. The whole reason we slowed the game down is to win a long 5-turn longevity battle of attrition. Now it's the endgame, now we cash it in. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what you should pre-measure. This is very general, good advice for just playing Warhammer as well, but this is important stuff that you want to just keep in mind. And as you get better at sisters, practice more, this will become a little bit more second nature. Try to keep these in your mindsets for what you are actively pre-measuring. Your opponent's threat ranges, this is like a total threat range, but again, I also like to break it down. in terms of step by step by step. You get out 3 inches, you move 6 inches, you shoot 12, you charge 12. That's a total of 21 threat inches, but in different steps. So if I move block your rhino so you can't even get out of it, your threat range is functionally 0. Although in a linear scale, it's 21. So opponent's threat range is at the incremental level, and at what points can you affect that? Where your opponent will have to end their turn to hurt you. So this is like one of those situations I talked about against like Ironstorm, when you aren't able to hide your whole army and they're going first. Think about where they have to put their models to actually deal the damage to you. Even though you are exposed, you can still be hidden in a sense where it forces them to come forward. If they're coming forward, it probably means they're coming into multi-melter range, into charge range of Arcos. Use that to punish them. So try to think about where they have to end their turn to actually deal damage to you. Your units moving, advancing, charging, or shooting onto objectives or secondaries. But basically, do you have to just move 6 inches to an objective? What about a move 3, a disembark 3, then get out 6? Is that going to get you an objective? That can do an objective and still action, like a cleanse. What about advancing? Can I advance the objectives? What's my minimum roll? Is it a automatic if I roll a 1? Is it automatic if I pull a 3 from my miracle dice pile? Can I get there if I just do the hard 6 on a miracle die? Sometimes different measurements will warrant different amounts of attention from your army. Charging and shooting, obviously you want to pre-measure that. You don't want to shoot yourself out of range by moving poorly. So little stuff like that is just generically good. But it matters so much more with Sisters because, again, miracle dice are knowledge. Knowledge is a very powerful tool in a game where knowledge is uncertain. So use your miracle dice to make plans guaranteed to go for things that your opponent may not be able to account for. Secondary planning and primary planning contesting. So we talked about that all through the first couple episodes, the first 4 parts of the series, but basically you're planning and staging who is going to contest the objectives, who is going to score your secondaries. And part of that is pre-measurement. There is no point in including the Zephyrim in your list, including the 2 Crusaders in your list, if you then put them into a position where they cannot actually do the things you need them to do on turn 1. So plan all that out. If I draw Secure No Man's Land, I know I can get to that with my Zephyrim. If I draw Cleanse, I know I can get to that with my Seraphim and 2 over here with my Arcos. Create plans to score your points preemptively. So when you draw it, it's not ooh, I hope I can score this card. No, you have planned to score this card. That's the heart of the cards, folks. Where does Seraphim end up after a 6-inch firing phase? So obviously when you are playing Warhammer against someone and you have a lot of reserves, they're going to screen you, assuming they're a decent opponent, and then you can only show up 9 inches away from their units. But you then get to move 6 inches, or potentially charge, but largely just move 6 inches with Seraphim. That move can be backwards behind safety, it can be forwards to move, block, and contest and push back their ingressors, or their reserves. In any case, don't just think about your initial position when you're deep striking, think about where you can end up after you move 6 as well. That's a huge, huge, huge factor. Again, guaranteed knowledge, use it to your advantage. 6-inch auras from Triumph, especially the dying on death one, or the getting 6s when you die one. You really want to make sure as many units as possible are just towing within 6 of Triumph so that they get to benefit from her auras. It sounds a little rudimentary, but this is easy stuff to mess up, easy stuff not to think about, and it's a huge difference maker when your stuff dies just outside of Triumph's range and you get a couple 1s and 2s versus they die in Triumph's range, you get some 6s. The amount of plays you can make dramatically changes. Where Triumph's base can land. Triumph's got a big chunk in base, and this will extend to vehicles as well, but I really want to highlight it with Triumph because she's infantry. It's really easy to just assume that she can move freely because she's infantry, and to a degree she can, but that big old base has to land somewhere, and ideally it's landing somewhere where it's not getting shot in the face in the following turn. So really, please measure that. I often use a miracle dice for advanced rolls on Triumph just to get her from one spot to another, terrain hopping very effectively. Sometimes you just let the shots come. In the example game I'm going to give a little bit later, Triumph ends up not using a miracle die on an advanced roll, gets a little bit exposed, gets herself killed. Terrible, terrible thing. So definitely you want to pre-measure your Triumph's landing spots. And similarly, just vehicle placements in general, and especially if you play a more mechanized version of Sisters, it is really, really, really easy to move block yourself, block your own spots, force vehicles into the open because another vehicle is hiding. Avoid the parking lot. This is practice, 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 but also some planning in terms of where your tanks are going to go, what your movement lanes are. I know I preach being safe in deployment, but think about the ramifications of being in the L of a ruin where it takes you 4 inches to get out from the ruin, and then you move 8 inches sideways, and then you're not even in front of the ruin, you're just next to the ruin. That's a whole turn of movement, and you haven't made any forward distance. Don't put yourself in positions where you cannot move freely, especially with vehicles. So these are all the different things you're thinking about in terms of how to optimize your movements and placements on the table within the context of a larger strategic game of slowing down the pace and winning the late game. You have to use these tools to really help you with those means to an end and make it more efficient.
So this is a game I played against Michael Duda, one of the strongest Team Poland members in the world. Team Poland is one of the most winning WTC teams in existence. So he is a top-notch player. We butted heads one time before, and it came to a really close game, and this one was no different. So I wanted to take this opportunity and go through a coaching match recap style match of Michael Duda's amazing Eldar performance and my sister's army, which I took to the Pirate Cup at the Warhammer Team Tournament and did supremely well with sisters at. So I want to kind of go through the game. It was really well played on both sides, a lot of tactical nuance, and it really highlights the things we've been talking about in this Sisters Masterclass, going through slowing the pace of the game down, not running straight towards the objectives, but going onto them on turns 2 and onward, using rapid ingress as a really powerful tool to launch attacks into your opponent's backfield, but all the good stuff, basically all the good stuff. It also highlights a couple mistakes I made in areas of improvement we can always look for, but let's not focus too much on those types of things. Let's focus really on the sisters' minutia, ins, outs, and plans here. With that said, we're also going to be releasing this later as a strategy session because this game is literally just that good. So if you're catching it in both places, do not be alarmed. That's just because we want to share the love. And we recognize that not everyone is going to find this beautiful strategy session in part 5 of a Sisters Masterclass, but it's a really great strategy session that pretty much anyone can learn from. So with that said, if you are watching this as a strategy session, please do us a favor and do yourself a favor and check out the rest of the Worm. We have some amazing content like the Sisters Masterclass for you. All right, with that said, let's get into the actual game and list itself. So we've got Michael Duda's Eldar, really strong Eldar army over here. We've got the Autarch, Wayleaper, Avatar of Cain, Farseer, Fugin, and a Speedseer. So those are our 5 characters. You best believe I was not even considering Assassinate with this choice because it certainly was not obvious, even with the Avatar potentially standing up. We've got 10 Guardians with a Bright Lance. We've got a Falcon, 5 Fire Dragons, 5 Rangers, 2x5 Shadow Specters, a Warwalker, 2x5 Spiders, and then 10 Wraithblades. Really comes together nicely. You don't really see Wraithblades too often, but then with the Spirit Seer is still really powerful as a combination. Tough unit to shift off an objective, which is obviously something my army's trying to do. Avatar with Fortune in this army is super hard to kill. I'm basically relegated to Miracle Ice using 6s to wound. Bad place to use 6s, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And of course, grenades. And then so much MSU stuff. We've got 2x5 Spiders, 2x5 Specters, a Warwalker, a Falcon, Rangers. It doesn't look like a very assuming Eldar list, but let me tell you, in the hands of his opponent as skilled as Michael Duda, this is a master scalpel. And we're going to kind of go through that as well. So just as a reminder, my sister's list that we used is basically the same one, the MSU style version. We got Canoness, Palatine. Canoness has the Mantle of Ophelia, plus the Blade of St. Eleanor, St. Celestine, and Triumph. 3x10 battle sisters. Each one is going to combat squad in those 3 immolators with the melta portions in each of the immolators. One's going to have a Palatine joined to them. One's going to have a Canoness. The 3rd will be empty. 2 Rhinos. Each will house the 2x10 Arcoflagellants and 2x2 Crusaders. 3 units of 5 Seraphim with Hand Flamers. Then 2 units of 5 and 1 unit of 10 Zephyrim to round it out. So that's pretty much the list in a nutshell. Very MSU oriented. And just to talk about the game we're playing today, it was actually Vital Ground, which means there's no center objective on the table. We're only playing with 4 objectives. Now, general strategy with an army like Sisters in Vital Ground, and also an army like Eldar in Vital Ground, is to very quickly get a foothold on your expansion objective. And then just launch some contests on your opponent's side. And that's certainly what we've been trying to talk about doing for the entirety of the Sisters Masterclass thus far, just trying to get that idea across of get a foothold, but get a foothold in a safe and timely manner. So let's hit the top down. We'll talk about the board and the mission and the terrain, all that. So this is our representation of a WTC board. And basically we've got 4 objectives, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the center, we have this big ruin. The bottom 4 blocks on each of these. The top floor's got some windows. Then we've got 2 big cargo containers stacked on top of each other. So this is a pretty good line of sight blocking center. It's hard to shoot into it. Over here, we've got a home field base on each side. Right before the center is kind of like a hammer and anvil stage point to easily, safely deploy your army just a little bit further back. And then we've got another corner ruin on each side, which does clip the edge of the board here. So there's not really a way to interact with the unit that's on this side of the ruin right here unless you charge it or get super close to it. So those are some of the main features, and as always, I'm thinking about anything I can't hide safely, I want to reserve beyond my normal capacity. So I'm basically thinking in terms of deployment 5 set from here, and this is launching those turn 1 attacks, getting my turn 1 cards, depending on what I do. If he just brings this Warwalker up, a very natural turn 1 kind of hold this very minimalistic move, I want to be able to contest with the Zephyrim pretty freely right there. And then to follow it up, I have 5 sisters. Now they can come backwards or forwards. I also heavily debated just putting them on my backfield objective, which in hindsight, as you will find, will come to have been better. But I thought they were fine right here to just basically stage up here and do it a second turn if I want to just keep contesting this objective without throwing real resources on it. I want to make Michael really go over here. And that's kind of from a strategic standpoint. The worst thing Michael could do to me is put 10 Wraith Blades and a Fortune to Avatar both on this objective, because then I'm not going to be able to hold it. That, of course, might allow me to reactively hold his zone, but that's going to be the way it's played. I basically want to force one of the Wraithblade or the Avatar to this side to make him put something real here so he actually holds it, which means I'm probably going to hold mine because the resources that he would use to contest it are busy holding his own, and that helps us draw primary. And the general game plan here with Sisters, especially Sisters into high-level Eldar, is not to press some big advantage. It is to win barely by drawing primary and winning secondaries through nature of you have 26 units in your army. So that's kind of my goal. Certainly not a blowout type strategy, but if I can get a foothold on objectives, that'll be good. Following that, just going through my deployment, I've got 5 Sisters in my home base, 2 Crusaders back here. Each of these rhinos has got rhinos and Arcoflagellants and Crusaders, 10 and 2. 5 Melta girls in each of these. I put the Blade of St. Eleanor in this far one, and I put the Condemner Vulcan in this central one, or in the far right one. The middle one actually has no body or no characters in it, because I'm looking at that as probably the first contest on here. So like if Michael goes first and does decide to put an Avatar or Wraithblades on this objective, I have the option of just dumping some Sisters out. I don't really want to do that. I really want to preserve my Melta-Guns as long as possible, but it's all about getting your options going. Depending on what I roll for draw for cards. Area Denial, Deploy Homers. Easily done with some Crusaders or this Rhino. No sweat. And it's a very natural staging point here for that Rhino. So overall, I'm pretty protected, defended. I am very heavily skewed towards this. Triumph is not really looking to get onto this quickly because she'll just get killed by an Avatar or Wraithblades. I want to get there and solidify my hold there later, but I really want to think about, do I go this way or do I centralize her that way? In any case, I'm just safe for turn 1. Should I go second? And that's the largest thing I'm trying to accomplish, because I'm really waiting for all my reserves, which are 3x5 Seraphim, a 10-man Zephyrim, and Celestine to all arrive in through rapid ingresses and really get my part of the game going. Right now, I have like 500 or so points in reserve, probably a little bit more, and I don't want to fight Eldar 2,000 to 1,500. That sounds terrible, so I'm trying to not play. He might be able to get a couple shots off on this Rhino. It could be poking out here or poking out there, depending on how aggressive he gets. But if he does get that aggressive, he's got to get a line of sight angle on me, which will put him in charge range of Zephyrim or multi-melted range of Immolators. So I'm okay with all that. From Michael's side, he had a pretty good understanding of what I wanted to do and how to counter me, which I thought this was such a great example for a Masterclass. Because it'd be really easy, and I think most other players would take one of the Wraithblades, or the Avatar, and put it here and do some expansion move like that turn 1. And then that would create a scenario where maybe I can't contest this, maybe I'm trying to contest that, but only having one brick on this thing means I'm probably going to deal with it pretty effectively. Putting both on this really is going to make it hard for me to hold anything more than 2 points a turn on primary, 2 being from my home field. So we put the Wraith Guard literally on the line behind this nice piece of terrain with the Avatar here, using an Incarn model, but that is the Avatar. 10 Guardians with the Fortune Farseer right here, and this is really just going to kind of follow along this path while blessing these stupid units with Fortune. We got the Autarch with the coming back to life right up here. He is insane, and basically Michael's using him very effectively to potentially threaten moving 20 inches with an auto advance 6 fate die type of situation, getting on my side, throwing a grenade, throwing a fusion gun with a reroll hit, reroll wound, fate dice action, and just auto killing a rhino. It's a really great plan that sucks for you when it happens. So he's staging for that. I can't do anything about him. He's a lone op. I got 5 Rangers right here. They're pretty much never going to move. They're going to be a screen. Fugin and 5 Dragons deployed in the Falcon. I like this. I was hoping he would deep strike it just because if he tries to use it for anything in the middle of the game, it's the easiest thing in the world to screen. It's a whole tank. So having it on the board adds that firepower, which I don't love. Here we've got 5 Shadow Specters and 5 Warp Spiders, and then the Warwalker infiltrated out here. Just looking like he's going to take this flank with skirmishing stuff and deploy hard for that one with the Wraith Blades. So as anyone, I really basically want to go first in this mission to gain tempo and staging, but I'm also fine going second in this mission because you get that bottom of turn scoring and a vital ground that can be so good. I do run the risk if I go second of him just putting Wraith Blades and Avatar on my objective or close to it, and then how am I going to hold mine? We'll cross that bridge as we come to it. But the idea here is because he's gone so hard on the one flank to make my life hell, maybe I can return the favor on his side because his objective is a little weak. So in the game actually played, Michael went first, which is of course good and bad. I get amazing bottom turn scoring if I'm alive to see it, but he gets to stage up on me and do his turn 1 shenanigans. So we'll take a look at that. Just real quick also for this coaching match recap, I don't remember exactly what cards we both drew on different turns. We both went tactical. I'm going to do my best to kind of keep the ebbs and flows of the scoreboard in our mindsets, but largely speaking, this game is played in the tactical element of the game on the tabletop as opposed to the scoreboard keeping. So we'll talk about that. The scoreboard is a strategic point. So anyway, let's hit that top down and get to it. The Wraith Blades here go for an advance roll. They don't auto advance or anything, just go for it and get real tight on this thing with one dude tagging my objective like a jerk. Basically saying if I don't do something about this, my life's gonna be hell. And they actually strung so far back out that the Spirits here stayed behind this little wall. And the reason for that is really clever because I always talk about how I kill the Spirits Seers and stuff like that with Contender Bolt Guns. And I have Contender Bolt Guns here, here, and here. So if this Spirit Seer touches this terrain in such a way where I can get line of sight, or he's not careful, he leaves the Spirit Seer here carelessly or something, puts him a little too far this way, I can just snipe his right out of there. And he is lethal hits, +1 to hit, revives a model. I would love to kill that. Forget the possibility of also timing it with an assassinate card or whatever. Just the model out of the unit would really make my life better. So then the Avatar follows right behind. Farseer just basically following him around, giving out fortune. No biggie. Over here, Michael can't really take many shots. He can get some amount on this Rhino like we talked about. And he basically puts this Warwalker on the objective and brings this Falcon towards the objective as such. And then here's the money shot, which I really don't love because as you can see from a strategic perspective, this is Michael's turn 1. This is my expansion objective. There are Wraith Blades and an Avatar on my objective. How the hell am I going to actually hold that through one of his turns into a command phase? I'm not is the simple answer. So that's bad in and of itself, but maybe I can return the favor because if I'm getting 2s, Michael better be getting 2s because that's my strategy is tie primary. Unfortunately, Michael did not allow himself to get a 2 this turn. And the way he stopped that is basically by just spending the warp jump on these spiders to move 24 inches. Whoop-a-doop-a-doop right there. And then similarly, barely getting these Shadow Specters in a position to just screen, essentially, and be like this. No problem. They're keeping this backfield nice and safe. So then the Warp Spiders shoot, and I just straight up lose these Zephyrim. Just go into the Warp Spider gods. And then they, of course, fire and fade to safety outside of harm's way, all the way over here. Now these sisters could like attempt to chase them, but remember he's got Phantasm. And he's set up a little bit more like this actually, where if I come forward, I'm overwatched and all my guns are over here. I'm not doing anything about it. So these Warp Spiders are in a great spot. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 OC on there. He's doing good. Sister's coming up this way. Sister's coming up in the ruin to that staging point that I was trying to get them to. They're getting overwatched, probably destroyed right then and there. This Sister Squad is functionally trapped, pinned, not doing much. So really beautiful turn. It took both of his command points. He has 2 for his Autarch. I'll keep track of that. I'm at 1 since that matters. But he spends both of them for fire and fade. And I can see this becoming a consistent issue because now I can't contest this objective. A 12 on an advance won't get me there. Anything else will get me overwatched. There's Phantasms. This is just not getting contested. And I'm not holding that. So Michael's setting himself up to get a 7 to my 2. Now, 7 to 2 is not really good, but it is okay in the sense that sisters can take a primary deficit early to make one back late game. We are playing Vital Ground. That is a mission where it is okay to do this. Like, we will get bottom of turn scoring. We should survive this Elder Army. It's not that offensive. I'm sad I lost a resource turn 1. It wasn't free. It cost him 2 command points, and I think that should be said. So with that in mind, we had to figure out what exactly we're doing and how we're going to break this lock that Michael has upon me. So he's got this situation where he's got this as his until I do something about it. I do have reserves coming in. Next turn with Rapid Ingress on Michael's turn. I'm thinking about that. Over here, I know I can stage and do whatever, but these are pretty far staging points to charge onto this objective. Not a great place to attack. It's all about midfield staging is ideal. There's not good midfield staging on this board. In teams, you do kind of get stuck with what you get stuck with as sisters. So over here, let's talk about how I can contest this objective. He has exactly 1 OC on there. So the easiest, simplest thing I can do is get 2 Crusaders out, Bim Bob and Joe Schmob, and basically just contest this objective. I can even use a Miracle Dice, which I'm sure I have at this point, to auto-advance the minimum dice needed to get there. 2 OC. Hallelujah. Unfortunately, Michael can spend the only command point, which is worth noting right now that I do want to make him pay for his kills with command point tax. His only command point to Phantasm, and if he just gets like a 2 or something, 2 more Wraith Guard, hop on this objective, and it's 3 to 2. So in that sense, it's really, really not ideal. Forget the Wraith Guard actually getting closer. I just won't even get the contest off. I believe I also scored Tempting Target, and he made it. No, I didn't score Tempting Target. I think I scored Secure Noise. Let's not focus on this, what I drew. But over here, throwing a 2 OC model on it would be pretty not enough. Now I could do 2 Crusaders and like 5 Zephyrim, and it's likely he doesn't do it, but now I'm sacking 2 resources. And Zephyrim are a good resource to move, block, and throw a grenade, and suffering and sacrifice and all that jazz. So are Crusaders in the sense of suffering and sacrifice. But Crusaders, someone's going to die here. As I look at this, I'm thinking of other scenarios. Could be like 2 Rhinos, and then hopefully he doesn't get 4 or 5 on. But the catastrophe of him rolling a 6 on that Phantasm, getting 6, 7 models on, and debacking me is like very, very bad. So I'm thinking, what if I take a Rhino and I do a good advance roll and I like block where they could Phantasm? Well, this Rhino's dead. There's 10 Wraith Guard and an Avatar right here. So if he kills that and then the Archiflagellants get out and then he kills the Archiflagellants, that's like a terrible, terrible trade. And this Rhino's not really in a position to make the same kind of advance roll. These Immolators definitely don't want to be doing that. So I started thinking that it's okay to sack this Rhino and the 2 Crusaders to make sure I hold this objective if I keep the Arcos alive. So I basically moved advance these Crusaders, got them to the objective, got the Arcos out right now, 10 Arcos, and moved advance them to this ruin. And again, this follows the Sage-like Sisters advice I've been telling you all Masterclass, is you stage at attacking points. So basically the Arcos here are not unchargeable from these Wraith Blades, but now I have this Rhino moving 12, advancing, getting up there, really blocking space. Now there's 4OC, there's less space because those Crusaders. This is like a not really going to be stolen back from me type of Wraith Guard scenario. And it's possible that he goes for, I think it was more like this, but the idea was he wasn't getting onto it with enough dudes. It is possible he goes for this long charge, and with the Fate Dice, nothing is a long charge. But if he does, and this is something I'm thinking of in the movement phase, and why you want to stage off of objectives, so if your opponent overextends to charge you, you don't get charged on objectives. If he goes 10 inches like this, hits some long bomb charge, move 5 goes 10, one, it's not going to be the end of the Arcoflagellants. It's going to be a handful of Wraith Blades in this formation, kind of jerking up some space here. I'll lose a handful of models, swing back, probably not do much. They're going to have Fortune and 2-up armor, so let's not lie to ourselves. But we won't die, and more importantly, we're going to get them primarily off the objective. Maybe a couple go on there. Maybe there's also an Avatar. This is just theoretical. But now this Spirit Seer is in a position where I can easily condemn him, because he was in the back all the way here. How far is he really going to get to? So he's condemnable. And these Wraith Blades are easily put in jail. I have so many 5-girl sister squads all over the place. I have Rapid Ingress as a tool. I have Crusaders in this Rhino, which I'm going to stage a little bit. I have all these multi-meltas, and I have so much OC I can bring to bear on the objective while keeping these Wraith Guard tied up not on the objective, all to lose a few Arcoflagellants that would largely be fighting models with 2-up armor anyway, so they're not going to do anything no matter where the fight is. So this was largely bait. And Michael's a great player, and he almost went for it, but he did not. And that's why he's a great player. So we basically just came up with a really roundabout way to stage our units, recognizing the Rhino was more important as an objective contester instead in a move blocker, as opposed to a protection piece for these Arcos, because the wall gives them natural protection, and so on and so forth. So the next thing I did was I pre-measured this Avatar's move, and that's, again, just good 40k principles, but you always want to measure and ask how far your opponent can move. So the dude moves 10, he shoots 12, and I put dice representing what the Avatar could shoot and charge. And I didn't want the Avatar hitting no 12-inch charge, so I just measured that and stayed comfortably out of it by about 1 millimeter. This is the power of playing by intent and pre-measuring. So now we know he's here, and that's okay. And basically, I've got this little move block going on, keeping the Wraith Blades from crashing into my army. I've got the objective contest. Even on a good Phantasm, he's not going to get 5 dudes on this objective without being within an inch of me. He's just not got that much space. And now I'm basically free to maneuver as long as I don't get within this zone, and the Avatar is not going to hurt me. So this dude stages up right here, waiting for the good life. This dude kind of comes up here. This dude advances to over here. And I'm really eyeing up my opportunities for future turn shooting and seeing what I can do with that stuff. Actually just chills more like this, but really just biding time and seeing what we're doing. These sisters kind of advance this way. Triumph generally advances, doesn't get a super good advance roll. I didn't burn a miracle dice on it. I could have used like a 5 or 6 to try to just terrain hopper, and maybe I should in hindsight, but this is basically where she ends up. I didn't think she would take much damage here. These sisters decide Warp Spider Death is not for them, but they don't want to abandon their position, so they literally just kind of wait and see what happens and continue screening so that specters and spiders don't just get to drop onto my zone. I think I towed Triumph on this side when I realized I couldn't advance her to this spot, which is where I really wanted her, because that would have required a miracle dice or a good roll, both of which I didn't have. So I tagged this objective with OC6. This is generally a good thing you want to do against Eldar, because I already had a bad situation on points. I didn't want to open up an opportunity for capture enemy outposts with warp spiders. So I was like, Triumph plus 5 sisters means he's not going to do some stupid stuff like walk here, flame these 5 sisters, just walk right on. I'm very privy to the Eldar BS. So I just wanted to lock that down. And then I think these sisters like kind of screened a little bit, but largely speaking, these sisters are just joined to Triumph to give her some extra wounds, keep people out of my deployment zone. And life's good. So that's turn 1. And now we go to turn 2 and things start really heating up because Michael now has to worry about rapid ingress and all that stuff. And I have a good foothold on the center here with Arcoflagellum, so he's also going to want to stop doing that. So Michael played a really great turn as well, and he basically responded to my issue by sending the Fortuned Avatar forward. He moved over here, got his Wraith Blades right and tucked behind this wall, and put the Spirit Seer over here where I'm really not going to get to it this turn. And really just kind of reacting to where I could potentially go with these Condemner Bolt Guns. He doesn't want that. And he's going to put the Fortuned Avatar on here. So we'll get to that in the charge phase. But basically he continues the attack over here, which sucks. The Shadow Specters come forward, and they light up Triumph very painfully with their strengths, with their blast version goodness gun, and just peel right through my 5 girls. And then I take lances to the face with Triumph just getting lanced a lot. It sucked. These Rangers kind of just screened the good screen. The Rangers plus Guardians took care of the backfield screening. Autark stage. He really did consider throwing the Autark up here quite a lot, but opted not to. No problem. And right now I'm salivating because this big empty hole is like prime for rapid ingress. I can go right here. I can put like Celestine or 10 Zephyr right here. Launch attacks straight onto his home field. Launch attacks straight onto the side field. Kill the Autark twice. But Michael's very good. He didn't let me do that. So we'll get to that in just a second here. These spiders, they come over here and basically line up shots to either attack Triumph or kill these 5 girls and really make my life hell based on what they want to do. And he brings 5 more Shadow Specters in. And this is where my rapid ingress goes and dies, and I'm sad about it. Michael is very good, like we keep saying. And he just created a ring around the Shadow Specters right here to make rapid ingress on my side, basically into my own ruin, which isn't bad, but it's not that painful. I'm not going to launch some devastating attack onto his home field, and now I'm not going to, I could launch some sort of attack here, but as you'll see, he's not going to let me get that off either. So that's pretty much his turn. He still has 5 spiders in reserve, and he still has all of the fire dragons and Fugin and whatnot in the sky. So his shooting phase ensues, and specters shoot these 5 girls to pieces, do a modicum of damage to Triumph. I end up using 4s, my number 4s on Miracle Dice. It's not a 6 basically. To pass 2 saves from Bright Lances, I did not realize how much Falcons and Warwalkers shoot. I say that, and I've been shot by them thousands of times. I know exactly how hard they shoot, but man, do they shoot hard. Army shot, Triumph down to 5, very bad. Not game ending, just very bad. Shadow Specters move after they attack me, which I completely forgot about. So these are just going to move here. And then he moved these ones 6 inches even deeper. Pause that real quick because I actually rapid ingressed, even still, because you just got a rapid for value. And I put 10 Zephyr right here. And I figured they can kill these Specters in response. And they can kill that Autark if I go for a far charge. A further charge, which is not that far with the Miracle Dice, as we all know. So I put 10 Zephyr here, and this is also because I know I'm not going to get a better opportunity if I don't do something, and I'm not set up to do anything. This is losing. I'm losing my home field. I have to win that back. I've already lost my home field, my expansion. I'm trying to win that back. I need to play this game because this is going very poorly right now. So secondary cards are okay. Like, it's turn 2. He has a 7. I have a 2 on primary functionally, but I might have even been winning at this point based on what the card draws were. But that's not indicative of the flow. The flow is that I'm going to lose until I do something about it. So this is my attempt at doing something about it with these Zephyrim. And I really spread them across this, and that's part of using the 10-man so nicely, is you can affect different areas of the table. So I got girls coming up in the corner of this ruin to easier threat this side, and I got girls on this side to easy threat that side. So this is my attempt at a counterplay, and he just pushes on forward. He's like, I don't care. You've got 15 Seraphim and Celestine Reserve. You're not coming near me. And these dudes just basically screen like that, really nice and tucked away. I have to charge them basically to kill them because it's such a tight shooting angle. Spiders peeled these sisters off of the planet. Michael's just going for resources, which is good. Can't fault the man for going for resources. And then just like do their Eldar thing, and they're over here. And they're lining up an Overwatch on the Triumph. So if I move her, I could just lose her right then and there. The spiders have rolled like 30 shots on 66, and I was traumatized. I remember that. So that's this side of the board, which I should be contesting, but I have absolutely no momentum or hope on whatsoever right here. So this is going probably as bad as it could be going in terms of that side. This side, I don't know if Michael's playing it properly. He's definitely got a million pathways to choose. In any case, he's choosing this one where the Avatar is going to go on the objectives. The Avatar kills this Rhino, comes here. These dudes died to something, forget what. But now there's a Fortune to Avatar on the objective, and he did it in such a way where these Wraith Blades could heroic if I charge too far and end up charging onto this backside of him, which I really don't want to do. He doesn't have that many CP though. He's a little CP starved, so I don't think the heroic is an actual play, but he's an option for him if he doesn't spend his CP. But thankfully for me, he spent it on Fire and Fade again to continue this beautiful screening he's doing. So we don't have to worry about the heroic. We do have to worry about everything else though. Okay. So in this situation, we have a few things going on because we want to not only wrestle our side back from this Fortune to Avatar, but we need to do something about this objective at some point. So I basically decide he's given me 5 spiders. He's given me 5 specters. Let me take that. Let me get some free lunch out of this. And then I cannot one turn a Fortune to Avatar. I've been saving my number 6s to wound this thing. But it's not happening in one turn. So I look at my options, and I basically decide the best way to handle this is to have these 2 Crusaders go on a little one-way ticket and become suffering and sacrifice fodder. Well, these Archiflagellants who have no ride, so they're pretty relegated to this side of the board, walk on there and charge. Now, this is not going to do much. I'm wounding on 6s, even if I pop +1 a wound. And he's got a 2-up armor save. So even with 60 attacks, that's like an average of 2 failed saves. But it's not 0. And if I force the Avatar to kill the 2 Crusaders with Suffering and Sacrifice, this is 10 modded bodies, he's like 5 OC. Even if Wraithguard Phantasm, because I can't really do much about it, they shouldn't get enough Wraithguard on to totally go on this objective. And then I very deliberately didn't move either of these Immolators, because I actually quite like both of their positions. They're threatening these objectives very nicely, and they're threatening that Spirit Seer pretty nicely for fear of an Avatar Overwatch, because that could just auto-kill me. I wanted to get some decent value on the Avatar started, so I just popped some Seraphim on. Still pretty far charged for the Wraith Blades, and there's going to be Archiflagellants kind of gumming them up that they're going to want to charge instead. So I just got a grenade getting tossed, and that's just going to peel some damage. And this thing comes over here. I think I drew Investigate Signals, and I think this guy did it. These girls can come back and do it. I think that's what happened. I don't remember. In any case, this thing came over here. So for my reserves, we had a lot to do. And on the side of the board, we had a lot to do. I could still get these Arcoflagellants out and get them involved, but even still hurting these guys with 2-up armor is a fool's errand. Getting Arcos out to kill this is like just not getting Arcos out in an area that matters and killing a problem that's beneath them. Getting Arcos out to kill these spiders, fine, but I want to do it with less. And I'm really trying to get Arcos out to charge this objective. But this was a bit of a move block, that's what it was. But that's what Michael did a great job with the move block to prevent me from launching Arco Castle onto this objective, which I would have totally done. That is in fact why this Rhino is staged here. Because you get out 10 inches, and then with the Miracle Dice, this is not a far charge on any of this stuff. And because of the points deficit, that's a trade I would look at making. So with that in mind, I jumped these Seraphim over, and I basically decided this was a 7, and the game actually played. And I figured I can shoot a bunch of bolt pistols this way, and I can try to hit a 7 into the Autarch, which should kill the Autarch and take his first life off. It could kill the Autarch for real. It's always an option. But it changes the location of the fight. I want to put the location of the fight on Michael's side, just to take the units that he's going to react with, the Farseer, this Falcon Fire Dragon Fuging combination, these Shadow Spectres. I want them to kill these 10 Zephyrim over here. I have no delusions that these 10 Zephyrim are going to die to Michael's rebuttal, but if Michael's solving problems on his side, he's not creating problems on my side. If he's not creating problems on my side, I get some breathing room. And right now, I'm losing. I need breathing room. So we're just basically sacking Zephyrim for the life of an Autarch, some bolt pistol shots into some dudes that have to die anyway, and momentum. Momentum is the real value to this play. So then we've got a little bit more reserves. I have Celestine. I'm pretty much locked into she is rapid ingressing next turn unless something really crazy happens. So I'm not even going to bring her in. I'm just going to let her wait till turn 3. I also don't want to bring my Seraphim in because I want my Seraphim to kill Guardians, Rangers, Shadow Spectres, and Spiders. So I want to bring exactly enough in that I'm doing that without overdoing that. So I'm bringing Seraphim in here, and I'm being super deliberate about my spot where I have like one Flamer Lady within range of 1 Spider. So if he overwatches, he's going to shoot with 1 Spider. And then the next Flamer Lady is also in range of that same Spider. So again, not triggering more Overwatch. And the bolt pistols, I don't even care about the bolt pistols. I just want them shooting Spectres on this side. So I'm really not trying to stress out about shooting this. And this is Flamer versus Flamer, Spiders versus Seraphim tactics here. It is like trying not to trigger the Overwatch while still getting the value. On a similar tip, these 5 sisters just barely exposed themselves. A little bit of rapid fire shots here just to help the cause. I think I wasn't even in rapid fire because I wanted to. I really have no idea which turn this was, but they're just here. Don't overstress these sisters. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Really chill turn in terms of not overreacting to the problems, but it's slowing the pace of the game down. Remember, we always keep saying that's so important. Basically, we want to not rush into things and not. And we'll make sure we're going to get used to turn 5. We're on such a bad start now. The way it's going to get better is endgame, so we have to get to endgame. So shooting happens, and we shoot some Flamers and Celestine and some Bolters, and these Spiders go away. We shoot all the bolt pistols at these Spectres, and we reduce them to 1. And that was really unfortunate, but what can you do? I didn't really commit much to killing either of them, so I can't be too upset about results. On this side, we shot and grenaded the Avatar, and I think we ended up bringing him down to 5 between shooting, grenades, and combat. So I felt pretty good about that. I used Miracle Dice to wound him on 6s wherever I had 6s, and then I just rolled damage. I wasn't necessarily within 9. I didn't move to get within 9 because I didn't want to trigger an Overwatch. But I pulled the Suffering Sacrifice play off. He murdered 2 Crusaders, and the Arcoflagellants held the objective. I think Michael didn't even bother phantasming this turn, which is interesting. But I like that. So this was not the worst thing that's ever happened in terms of turns, but the worst thing that did happen is I failed this charge. Sisters 101 is you don't fail charges. But here's the math I ran, the mental calculus. A 7-inch rerollable charge, if you're willing to just roll some dice on it, is an 83% chance to hit. A 2-up, if you will. Versus a multi-multi wounding an avatar requires me to roll 6 on a twin link die. But if I don't kill this avatar with the limited number of shots I have, the avatar is going to ruin my day and it does not matter. So I took the gamble, I used my 6s on the avatar, and then I just rolled the 7 on these Seraphim. I had already used 4s and 5s for Triumph, knowing that those were not numbers that I could use on the avatar, so I used them for the Triumph Invul saves against Warwalkers and stuff to keep her alive, but not very healthy. And I failed this charge with the free reroll. So now I have sacrificed my Zephyrim, couldn't even kill the last Shadow Spectre, not charging the Autarch. This game is truly going terribly. I am like telling my coach and my captain that, like, guys, this is not going good. But all is not lost. We have reserves, we have patience, and things will work out. So let's fast forward a little bit to Michael's third turn. After turn 3, things really pick up. But turn 3 for Michael basically went like, okay, time to send the kitchen sink. And the Wraithblades got involved. And they charged and they went Arco-Flagellant hunting. And the Spirits here came up just a little bit. The Avatar basically stayed there, shot at Immolators, and did not kill Immolators. I think he rolled poorly. Maybe passed a 6-up invul. Life was good. Over here, we've got these Shadow Specters coming forward. Michael had behind enemy lines or deploy homers or something. I believe he had homers. He drew homers this turn. This matters. So he actually tried to use this fine gentleman's Shadow Spectre to do homers in my deployment zone for 5 points, which would have been a lot. But I overwatched him with this Flamer unit and just killed him because I hate when Eldar have little one-mans that score them 5 points. It's like the worst thing ever. So instead he decided to go with his Autarch and do a homer here for 3 points in the center. Then shoot with these Shadow Specters and bring in some more spiders. So we brought in some more spiders, and essentially they shot at Zephyrim from relative safety. Boop, 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 something like that. And they're just shooting Zephyrim, really maiming them. These dudes shooting down there. Warwalker solidifying this. Falcon solidifying this. This is all staged, screened. Life's good over here. And the resulting shooting of all of this was I somehow had 1 Seraphim survive because of how I pulled my casualties to allow for 1 Seraphim to not be shot. And these flying girls also died. And of course, we're not done, but Triumph died. Triumph didn't even resurrect because I had only 1 command point. Things were going very expensive on the command point side. So I decided ingressing Celestine was worth more than not ingressing Celestine, basically. And I ingress Celestine essentially 9 away right here. And she didn't take any damage because she's not really in line of sight of anybody. The Shadow Specters could have shot her. The Altar could have charged her instead of homering. That would have all amounted to not nearly enough. So I opted not to be able to res Triumph because she's kind of not doing anything guarding my home field. The real mistake here, as I talked about mistakes, was the 5 girls here that got pinned, then killed by spiders. Should have been here, so I was never at risk of losing my objective to a capture enemy outpost combo from spiders, flame, and flicker jump, and fire and fade. If I had 2 squads on there, they're not realistically killing 2. Killing 1 is not enough to take it, so the whole play kind of falls apart. I used Triumph to get the same effect of 5 Sisters of holding my backfield, which is not how you should use Triumph at all. I'm sorry I'm using that one for the Sisters Masterclass. Triumph wanted to stage here. I should have planned for that accordingly. Triumph could be helping out here with lethal hits and other ores to get 6s and whatnot. Use 2 Miracle Dice. All that would have been helpful. OC6. So you live and learn, and that is a mistake that we are acknowledging. Celestine came in here though. These jabronis moved after they shoot to whatever. Just really screen and make my life miserable, as they do. And that is pretty much the gist of this side. That rapid ingress is going to help me a lot though. At least that's the goal. And then here, these Wraithblades charge on and get very onto the objective. These Arco-Flagellants die. They consolidate even closer. I made him roll it. He was like, do you want me to roll this? I was like, absolutely. 4 Philippines are nonsense. I died on the very last attack. So that's why you make him roll it, folks. To waste 5 minutes. Not actually. So then these Wraith Blades get on. He's like getting plenty of OC on. He's got his Spirits here in the nook and cranny of this thing. He's shorter than the first level of Ruin. My precision shots are not looking hot. Michael's not really giving me much to play with, but there is always a way if you are a skilled Sisters player, as they say. So over here, these spiders, I feel like are more like this. I think they could shoot a Zephyr over here. They did that shot instead because I wasn't able to get to them so easily with Arcoflagellants. So in my turn, things are going poorly. It's turn 3. We still have most of our army at least, but our scoreboard is in tatters. The nice thing is we have some actual attacks. Arcos and Celestine are in position to charge all this stuff. This move block is still happening, although it's not the end of the world, because we can get out now this way and charge around if we want to. There's 5 OC, 6, 7, 8, 9 OC on here, so that's not nothing, but it's also not that much. So Michael's army is on the board. Our army is not on the board. We have to put it on the board. And I'm looking at what I can do on this side. The Avatar's gotta die, and these Wraith Blades can no longer be allowed to hold my objective. I have to hold my objective. So it basically looked like the entire Sisters army came out to shoot these things. But we have been eyeing this up for the entire game. The moment when this Spirit Seer finally leaves this goddamn spot on the table and allows me to interact with it, and that is what I've been salivating for. Because we have the Condemnable Canonist move 12 get out and the Sergeant move 12 get out, like so. And we could even shoot in a variety of different ways, but in the game I actually played, we just drove 12, got out 3, and saw her. So we did that. And then we just put the Multi-Melta and the other girls kind of wherever. Didn't really care about them so much. And this is a means to an end to kill the Spirits here because I want to start killing Wraithblade models. I want to get rid of the healing, and I want to make them less potent with their +1 to hit. It's a very multifaceted play. So then we get more Multi-Meltas and Meltaguns out. And basically, this one drives up over here, and these girls drive up over here, and we're trying to really keep these Wraith Blades from doing anything too interesting. So this is the Palatine squad getting out of this one, wandering off over here. Super awesome Pain squad. And then this unit gets out and just wants to shoot, just adds more shots to the problem, the equation here. More guns, more better, as they say. So we'll use her as the Palatine. These girls get out. And as you can see, all of a sudden now I'm actually starting to make some headway on this objective. And this immolator comes out to here. Barely on with some more OC, and life is good. Celestine decides to go Autarch hunting along with this Zephyr. I really want to make sure this Autarch stops being a problem. So I basically hop right over, and I'm threatening the Autarch now. This Zephyr blocks just ever so slightly the movement here with this cargo container. He's a little bit more on it using this thing to screen. So right here, the placement of this Zephyr kind of prevents him from getting out this side with the cargo container here. So I'm kind of blocking the edge of it. And the point is not so much that I actually block this whole tank. That would be glorious, although maybe a little unrealistic. The point is that I don't want, say, Fugan getting out in an area where he can interact with my vehicles. I want to keep Fugan on this side of the board, not that side of the board, because he will rip vehicles to pieces. So I get these Arcos at 10 inches. And this is the threat overload. Once I kill the spiders, the specters, ideally I'm killing the Avatar this turn with grenades and every Multi-Melta I have. The Wraith Guard will be tied up. Like, what is he going to kill all of my bodies with? And that's kind of what I'm leveraging now. The fact that I have a material advantage that I have taken a scoreboard deficit on for turn after turn after turn to try to formulate. So we're getting out here and we're kind of bypassing this move block. It's not a direct line, but we're doing the best we can. And this Rhino is not really doing anything Kind of just drives off to start shooting bolters and getting involved. We have 10 more Seraphim to bring in. So bring in 5 over here with the express purpose of shooting this Spectres and then heading that way. And then we'll bring 5 more in over here with the express purpose of eventually getting to these Guardians. I don't really have a better shot because putting 2 Seraphim on the same one model doesn't do anything. After the first one fires, he'll pull the casualty. So I'm recognizing that I'm just putting this where I want Seraphim. Since he's come a little bit more forward, I can get into this angle basically. So shooting goes fairly well. These Spectres die between Flamers, who then move forward, and the Rhino. I think I lined up some amount of bolters on them. Over here, the Autarch actually lost his first life, which was really nice and nifty. Celestine's Flamer and some bad rolling. It can happen. The Avatar finally went down. He didn't have Fortune this turn, so it was not so challenging. I think that actually allowed me to fire the grenade at the Autarch, and that's what killed him. Because he didn't have Fortune, I just rolled 5s on multi-meltas and called that good. The Spirit Seer, beautifully planned, beautifully sniped, condemned bolt gun kill. Anti-Psyker 2 plus Devlin's precision, people. This stuff works. Reroll hits, reroll wounds. That immolator shot him. And fun fact, you can shoot the multi-melta at the Avatar and the heavy bolter at the Wraith Guard, and then choose that heavy bolter hitting to trigger the reroll wounds. I don't even remember if I actually made use of that, but I could have. Over here, these Seraphim basically just pointing at this ruin wall, saying, "I am coming for you, Farseer and Guardians." Celestine charges and kills the Autarch for the second time. So it kind of makes me feel better that the Zephyr whiffed on their charge, because Celestine ended up getting him 2 kills anyway when she probably shouldn't have. And then these Arcos used a good charge to get over here and exactly contest the objective because of how basing this thing worked out. So I basically used a high miracle dice to have the Arcos on this side base around the cargo container like that, and have the Arcos that couldn't base get over here, and then pile in closer, consolidate closer, and end up actually on the objective. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Somehow I got 9 on here. I don't remember how. This was contested, not held, and that was good enough for me. So that's basically what happened on that side. And then over here, what am I doing about Wraithblade Jail? Well, now that I've killed that Spirit Seer out of there, this is the unit, it's relatively finite. So I charged it in like this with the Immolator, really occupying the space the Avatar previously was. And I charged it in like this with the other Immolator, creating this little choke point funnel system here. And then I charged these girls in, the Palatine and the Canoness, in such a way where I based this model repeatedly, didn't base this one, didn't base this one, through manipulating my tanks. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Wraithblades that have to fight tanks, and 2 actually end up getting to fight this way. Probably should not have put Zephyr here. They ended up dying all of them. Some very poor rolling there. But nonetheless, the idea was the tanks take the damage and these girls barely take hits. Lost 2 girls. Actually ended up killing 3 Wraithblades between shooting and combat, so that's not 0 damage. And we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 OC. The Wraithblades are not killing that with any sort of expediency, so we're actually going to start holding our primary, and that's pretty important. And the Wraithblades also aren't shooting or anything, so they're really kind of jammed up stock doing their thing. So on this turn, we finally gave Michael Duda, a 2 after him scoring 2 7s in a row. And we are now in a position where we are ready to start scoring 7s. And as we approach turn 5, I can score up to 5, 5, 2, and 6 for a grand total of up to 18 points on turn 5 if I can pull it off. So as we go to Duda's turn 4, he basically brings out the cavalry. Fire Dragons and Few can come out. They're separate units, of course. And they get to work, completely ignoring Celestine. And basically just shoot and charge these Arcos down to a futile amount of stuff. I have like an Arco survive, and that is like completely pointless. Hugin and Fire Dragons are nonsense. And then this Zephyr died to something, I'm sure. The Warwalker spindling over here, trying to shoot my Rhino. Didn't really do anything. Trying to shoot Celestine or something. Warwalker didn't do anything. This is what's been going on. These Warp Spiders came, and Flamers vs. Flamers is a real thing. Duda repaid the kindness, going right here, barely within 12, barely seeing one Flamer model. I opted not to Overwatch, which was actually a little bit of a trap, even if I had. Aside from the fact that only one Flamer model could Overwatch, had I done it, these Guardians, who are actually terrified of the fact these Flamers are set up to Overwatch them, could have then activated, come forward, and started messing with all this stuff. I don't want any of that, so... Dude is being real coy and taking just like super extreme angle shots with some Guardians and his Farseer. And, you know, that's about all he's mustering. These Seraphim end up rolling well and going down to just 2 Flamer Ladies, which was kind of ideal. And that is basically what happened on that side of things. The Wraith Blades are kind of just stuck in this jail. They keep chopping some sisters. Palatine ended up getting wounded some more. Lost her girls, but then she took a couple Wraith Blades out with her. So it's just not a scenario that the Wraith Blades are getting out of at any pace, and that's just going to be my objective. So as we go to my turn 4, I just kind of keep solidifying this and with more OC. And I get to work on this stuff with Celestine going over here and starting to tie up this objective. Or actually, Celestine got to work on this objective, I'm sorry. And these girls got to work on these Warp Spiders. While these girls get in and start to drive off, ready to take this on turn 5 when it's worth a lot of points to me. And these girls kind of follow suit. Now that they're not really being threatened by anything, they're just chilling. So Celestine charges in, the Fire Dragon's still fighting Fugin, the Arcoflagellan's still fighting Fugin, so there's no heroic or anything. Fugin kills the Arco. Celestine kills the Fire Dragons. This objective still belongs to Duda at the moment. That's pretty okay. No, actually, I misrepresented this. The Warwalker came over here to do engage in all fronts, and that is how I actually ended up contesting this objective with Celestine. All she had to do was kill all 5 Fire Dragons. She threw a grenade and charged, killed the 5 Fire Dragons. Apologies for misremembering that, but that was the point here. 3OC to 3OC, contest to renode. Flamer shot here, knocked this to 1 spider, and called that good. And then basically Duda's turn 5 amounted to like attempting to kill Celestine, her resurrecting, and this largely being exactly what it was, or exactly what it is. Guardians kind of have their last stand, and then the great Seraphim Brigade moves, shoots, takes on turn 5, and then that kind of stalls out. So at the end of it all, I ended up keeping Duda to yet another 2, because Celestine was able to contest this objective on turn 4. So despite him having the early turn awesomeness of getting 12, being in a position to potentially score 12 to my 2s, realistically getting 7 to my 2s, I took that. I got a 7-2 on turn to battle round 2. In battle round 3, I got another 7-2, which was pretty terrible. But then on turns 4 and turn 5, I was able to give Michael 2s in response by getting this finally contested and using that material advantage to really win the war here. Essentially, Michael's tabled. If you look back at the table, bottom of turn 5, he's got a Falcon, Fugin, a handful of Wraith Blades, a Warwalker, and 5 Rangers. Like, this game is done in terms of material, but it's all about those points. So Michael had a huge points lead, and then I had a huge points lead at the end because after I got 2-2, I ended up getting 7 on turn 4 and ended game scoring, beauty to go in second, 2, 5, and 6 for a total of 13 more points, which offsets the primary I'd lost. So Michael went, in essence, 7-7-2-2 for a total of 18 primary, and I went 2-2-7-13 for a total of 24. So went on primary by 6. Secondaries, honestly, were neck and neck like this entire game. I think we both got very close to 40. I wasn't stopping Eldar BS. He wasn't stopping Sisters nonsense. That was close to 40. I ended up winning. It was a 10-10 draw in WTC teams. It was like a 3 or 4 point win in singles. But this game really highlights all the different things I wanted to show you in Sisters, about Sisters, the flow of the game, understanding the pace of the game, not sprinting towards the objectives, using your rapid ingress opportunities to open up holes, using your reserves, using patience to create a material advantage, leverage that material advantage into a points end game instead of an early game attack that ends up getting you tabled. And I got to show off some Condemned bolt gun beauties. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of some games actually played, you can check out our Astra Militarum vs. Sisters game. I think that's a really fantastic using of Sisters versus John's Guard. You can check that out in our war room. But I really enjoyed doing this coaching match recap for you. I hope you did too. If you're watching this as a strategy session, not as part of the Sisters Masterclass, this is just one of like 1,000 things we do in the Sisters Masterclass. In addition, we do Masterclasses for like every faction, along with all kinds of stuff in the war room for like coaching match recaps and all things like that. So if you like this kind of content, subscribe if you haven't, and check out the war room if you're not already a member. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you later.
So this basically wraps up our masterclass. I hope you really enjoyed that coaching match recap. I had a blast doing it for you. I really enjoy playing Sisters. They're pretty great. I really have not found an army that jives with me as much in 10th edition, to be honest. Sisters are supremely rewarding and fun to play. You do really feel like you're kicking your opponent's ass with like the most mundane tools in the Imperium, and it's awesome. Like I'm throwing grenades in the 41st Millennium, and it's my strategy, and it's the right thing to do. That's amazing. Sisters leave lots of room for personal expression in list design. I know my list is very MSU-centric, and I love that. A lot of trash everywhere. Most players love the Volgons, and I'm not knocking them for it. Whatever, like the fact there's so many winning Sisters lists, and I do mean winning, major winning, GT winning, teams winning, pick your poison. The fact there are so many, and there are so many different versions, really tells me that there is no right way to do it in terms of this is the one true path. That can be a little daunting if you're new to Sisters, you're looking to pick a direction and learn it. Pick which one jives with you the most, give it some reps, maybe explore a little bit, but you can't go wrong is the right way to look at this. Mastering Sisters will make you better at Warhammer, and if you're a longtime player like me, or you're trying to become a longtime player who's just better at the game, this is a great way to start. This is not a flashy army, this is not a teleport, deep strike coming down army, this is not a stat check army, this is not a broken army. To win with Sisters, you have to be fundamentally good at your Warhammer strategy fundamentals, your tactical minutia, and just generally understand Warhammer at a degree that many factions do not require you understand Warhammer to in order to see success. Sisters, playing them will make you better at Warhammer. That's kind of what it's all about. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the Sisters Masterclass. I had an absolute blast doing this 5-parter for you. Please let us know what you thought in the comment section. Tag me in the Discord, either in Sisters or in the Masterclass series, or wherever. Just tag me and I will see it. Leave a comment, leave some criticism. Let us know what you thought. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you later.